Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I'm really excited with the news that I have for you. It's evening here in Houston at Casa McAuley. Um, we are celebrating. Not only was it a beautiful day outside, but it was a beautiful day here in my homemade studio. Uh, if you remember back to June of 2019, we were working on a series. We were working on a series of probe videos. We call it Probe Week. And we plan on culminating that series with some great footage and a really powerful informational interview. And unfortunately, I was on the road while we were doing the interview, and the footage wasn't damaged. It actually was a technical error on my part. During the interview, the stream shut off. We lost 30-40% of the interview. And I'd set it to the side and was planning on doing something with that information. And, over the course of 10 months, had kind of frankly forgotten about it. And I rediscovered the footage and I reviewed some of it. And while it's a bit of a long format for what we generally try to do here, I thought with, everyone, kind of not having anything to do in the evenings, being at home, watching Netflix, watching YouTube videos, obsessing about hygiene. I thought it might be worth revisiting. So I'm going to just go ahead and throw all the footage up. And like I said, there's a section that's missing in the middle. It's probably 20 minutes long, but I think that we can that you might learn something from it. So with that, I'm going to enjoy a beer. I hope you all have a great evening. I hope that you enjoy the video, and if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. Thanks. Hey guys, we're here with Jeff Weeks from Van London, who's one of our vendors for the pH and ORP electrodes. Jeff, thanks for being here today.
Oh, no problem. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So we were kind of talking a little bit about how what a electrode is. We're obviously using your laboratory electrodes for pH and ORP, and what is obviously, our staff understands that, pH is an important thing to be measuring. But when we're measuring, what exactly is it that we're measuring, and why is that important when it comes to, water chemistry?
First of all, let me explain what the pH scale is, first of all. The electrodes don't emit a pH signal. They have a millivolt signal. The meter converts it to the pH scale. And so as far as the pH scale is concerned, you'll have things that are strongly acidic or strongly alkaline or basic. Your strongly acidic things would be, of course, hydrochloric acid, things like that come to mind. But things like Coca-Cola or Dr. Pepper or tomato juice, orange juice, those are strongly acidic things. Strongly alkaline-based things, the first thing you think of would be like sodium hydroxide, things like that. But things like household ammonia and toothpaste, baking soda, your bleaches, things like that are strongly alkaline-based. So as it comes to water chemistry, it's important to maintain a good pH scale, because 7 is, your water. Around 7 would be pure water and your tap water and things like that. Your pools are going to be somewhere around 7. So, you don't want to jump in your swimming pool and have it be 4 pH. So, it's important.
Yeah. Most people.
Important. Yeah, it's important. Yeah, you don't want it to be a 12 or 14 either. So, you want to maintain it close to 7. So when it comes to pools and stuff, it's important. So, the calibration of the electrode is very important, because you stick an electrode in pH 7, you have a buffer solution that is pH 7. You stick an electrode in it, and chances are it's not going to read 7. So you have to calibrate the sensor. So you stick the electrode in the buffer 7, and it may read 7.2. So you calibrate it on the meter to read 7. So now you stick the electrode in the pH 7 solution and it reads 7. But you also have to calibrate the slope, because the theoretical slope, of course, is 100%. And most electrodes aren't going to be 100%. They're going to be 95%, or our electrodes are guaranteed between 93 and 102%. So you have to calibrate the slope of the electrode too. So after you put it in 7, it reads 7. You stick it in 4, it's not going to read 4. It may read 3.8. So you calibrate it to 4. So now you've got the electrode, you calibrated the offset of the electrode, and you calibrated the slope of the electrode. So now you stick the electrode in 7, it reads 7. Stick it in 4, it reads 4. So now you know that the electrode's reading correctly. So if you stick it in your swimming pool or something, you know that your pH is going to be accurate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so what you're talking about there is that, and it's a little bit of algebra, but basically that just like in middle school algebra when you're first learning it, that if you have 2 points on a line, you can then calculate the slope of the line. And so
Correct.
by taking that high point and that 7.0 and that 4.0, we know those are 2 set points on a graph, and then we can basically say, okay, in between these 2 points, this millivolt is going to be this pH. And so for our guys in the field, what they're generally doing is testing the probe to make sure it has the proper reaction time. We covered that in the cup test video on Tuesday. So they're looking for on the pH electrode, they're looking for in a cup of pool water, a few drops of acid should result in 100 millivolt increase almost instantaneously. So they're looking at that reaction time. And then when we're putting that probe, monitoring that millivolts, they're looking for, it should always have a negative millivolt reading when the probe is, or when the solution is 7.0 or above. And then let me make sure I'm not misspeaking anything. The 100 millivolts almost instantaneously, a negative millivolt reading at 7.0 or above, and then they'll offset based on that. So obviously our probes, and I'm assuming most pH electrodes that are of the type we use, are looking at generally a 0 millivolt output at 7.0 and a negative 56 millivolt output at 8.0. Is that pretty standard for probes in general, or is that just the ones we're using? Or
well, that's
in theory. In theory,
yeah. The millivolt scale and the pH scale are the opposite. So the lower the millivolt, the higher the pH.
Right.
And
yes.
Just the opposite. So yes.
Okay. Good. And and so then what our guys generally doing in the field are again that offset, because we're looking at a very tight range of operation. That we need that probe to be accurate, basically between 7.0 and 8.0, or maybe 6.6 to 8.3. And so we've found, with proper testing in our production department, they're really more calculating the offset within the range they need to be in, mainly because we can't keep the standards fresh long enough for them to do better than that. But when it comes to that probe now, it is reacting in the solution in order to create that millivolt signal. What exactly reaction is happening, and what is the probe doing to create? I mean, it's not measuring millivolts in the water, right? It's creating millivolts because of the water. Is that correct?
Yeah, sort of. You have to understand the electrode makeup, and first of all, a lot of your field techs are used to one electrode. To measure pH, you actually have to have 2 electrodes. You have to have the measuring electrode, and you have to have the reference electrode. What y'all deal with mainly is the combination. We call it combination electrode, which is the pH and reference electrode in one. And you have to understand a little bit about how the potential is generated in the electrode, and that is the combination electrode has 6 points of potentials that are actually measured. The pH electrode has a potential measured at the reference element. The electrolyte and the inside of the bulb has a potential. The bulb itself has a potential, and there is the electrode generates a gelled membrane around the outside of the bulb as it is with the solution. Okay, so there's a potential there. The reference electrode has 2 points of potential, which are the process as it is diffused through the reference element into the electrolyte, and there's a potential at the reference element. So all those take into factor the millivolt output of the electrode. What is actually changing is the potential at the bulb outside membrane level, okay? So the pH is changing. The hydrogen ions are attracting itself to the bulb and through that gelled membrane.
All right. Now we're recording again. Sorry about that, guys. We cut out there in the middle of our conversation. Still here with Jeff Weeks from Van London, talking about probes and how they work and what they do, and trying to get some more resources together for you guys to have a better understanding of why or how they work and how to properly what's the right word? Properly evaluate them in the field. So, Jeff, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see people making when it comes to the use and evaluation of a probe, or is it misapplication? Is it cleaning it improperly? What sort of things do you see?
Mostly the issues that I see are coating issues with the pH bulb. The coatings will make the electrode real sluggish and slow. So it just depending on what the electrode is in, different cleaning procedures can be used. Generally speaking, we use HCl, 1 molar HCl, to clean bulbs. Many times with what you guys are doing, just I use a damp cloth and alcohol to wipe the pH bulb, and that usually clears out the problem. So that's basically the biggest problem is coating bulbs. And the second one is actually broken electrodes. If the electrode is, you mentioned earlier about putting electrode in the tap water and then putting some acid in it, see if it gets a reaction. If it gets no reaction whatsoever, the chances are the electrode can't be reconditioned. So that's the two biggest issues that I see.
Okay. And when you talking about a broken electrode, if a technician's physically, got that probe, right in front of them, what are some of the things to look for that are a sign that it's been damaged in one way or another?
Yes. A lot of times, if you're just looking at electrode quickly, it doesn't look broken, but it might be damaged internally. I believe a lot of you guys use the epoxy body type electrodes. You should be able to look inside, and there's a glass internal that runs through the inside of that. And if it's cracked or damaged or something like that, it's not going to read properly, because what happens is the millivolt signal goes through the break or the crack instead of going through the pH sensitive membrane. So no matter what solution you put it in, that signal is still going through the crack, and it's not registering the change in millivolt output.
Okay, good. So I know probes generally have the pH probes we're using are that epoxy body, and they are the combination laboratory electrode like you were talking about. When thinking of those specifically, and you've got the glass bulb and the reference electrode, the pH electrode. Any reason that probe should be full of water?
full of water. Well, the electrode itself has got electrolyte in it, but if it's got water in it, then there's
yeah. Well, when I say water, if they're turning it back and forth, should they actually be able to see a fluid filling that probe and moving back and forth within it?
In the glass internal is a liquid, and you'll see that flowing back and forth within the glass internal. The reference gel is a little bit more gelled. It's thicker. It's a lot thicker.
So if
you're not going to see a bubble going back and forth.
So if they can see it sloshing back and forth, it's probably that it's broken and water's gotten in there, right?
Most likely, yes.
Okay. Yeah, we can let our production team determine, but that's probably a sign to change it out.
Definitely.
The first time I ever saw that, I went, "Wait a minute, that's not right." So let me think. Anything you think we should hit? Something you want to kind of talk about?
I think I hit a lot of the stuff that's important for you guys, which is, the importance of calibration. I'll say this, that it's calibration is done as well as your standards. So, if you're using a buffer that's, 4 years old and out of date, and it's a 4 buffer, and you stick it in 4 buffer, and you calibrate it to 4, but it's not really 4 anymore, then you're not really calibrating the electrode. You're not going to get an accurate reading. So it's very, very important to have fresh, good buffers.
Right. Okay. Could you talk at all about what ORP is, why it's a qualitative versus quantitative, what the value in measuring that in water is?
Sure. Without going into how it affects the swimming pool industry, because we're not swimming pool experts,
sure.
But oxidation, ORP is oxidation reduction potential, and it measures electrons as they move from one atom to another. Okay, so you can't have oxidation without reduction. So in other words, if you have sodium chloride, there's an oxidation reduction potential going on there. There's an atom from the sodium is being, let me see if I can explain this correctly. But I don't want to get into that. You're
That's okay.
A little bit too much. But anyway, as it applies to the swimming pool industry, let me.
Yeah, take a second. It's all right.
Yeah, just give me a second to get my thoughts together.
Yeah. Not a problem. Trust me, I if you saw how many times it takes me to say, "Hey guys, welcome back," clearly.
Well, the thing is, I'm trying to think of how to explain it in layman's terms without going into great detail. And I started going into the sodium chloride thing, and they don't really need to know that.
So how we generally explain it, just to kind of like put what they're used to hearing, is that ORP is a qualitative measurement of the sanitizer's ability in the water. So it's not measuring the amount of a sanitizer in the pool the way a part per million test would. It's measuring how effective the sanitizer is, and it's independent of residual. So it's what it's saying is the sanitizer that's in the water is either low effectiveness or high effectiveness at oxidizing potential contamination. And so you could have a high ORP at a lower part per million if the water is more conducive to that sanitation, which is why pH is a factor in ORP, which is why the cyanuric acid buildup in a pool can be problematic. So we're really anything along the lines of measuring ORP is a way to test the effectiveness of a sanitizer within the water, as opposed to the amount of sanitizer in the water.
That's perfect. That's great. Said it better than I could say it.
Yeah, it'd be great if you said it because they don't listen to me.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll explain.
Not to put the words in your mouth, but to kind of give you an idea of what they're used to hearing. Yeah.
I can do that. So are we still on?
We are.
Okay. So I think it's important to realize that the ORP isn't an ion measuring electrode. It's not going to give you a ppm reading of chlorine in your water. It's more of there's a correlation between the reading and how much chlorine is in your water. So, but it's like I said, it's not going to be an actual ppm reading. It's measuring the oxidation reduction potential of the water. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So from like a swimming pool standpoint, instead of saying, like, sometimes our guys will go out to a pool and they'll say, and I know you guys aren't the swimming pool experts, but they'll go out and they'll say, oh, the water's green, but they've got 15 parts per million of chlorine in the pool. The controller's fine, and we're trying to tell them, well, yeah, the problem isn't the fact that the controller isn't feeding; it's that they have something else going on that's keeping the water from being sanitized. So that's kind of the breakdown from when they, as field service technicians, have to look at it from a instrumentation issue to a application issue, if that makes sense, right? That
Right.
Just because they have enough sanitizer in the water doesn't necessarily mean that they have effective sanitizer in the water. The probe could be reading properly, but maybe there's some sort of reducing agent in the water, like we saw in during the Olympics in Rio, where they, I think it added hydrogen peroxide to the pool or something, and it ended up, they couldn't get the pool blue again. And that's kind of where what you guys are doing and what we're doing, that's kind of where the technicians have to be competent, is that it's not just, the probe is working properly and the equipment is reading properly. It's, well, the customer still has an issue. We would need safe water, and so that qualitative measurement is a great tool for us, as opposed to just 15 parts per million. 15 parts per million is sky high, right? The pool would need to be closed, but the water's still green. People can't, so finding that solution to the problem. I may have gotten off topic there somehow in my mind, but
you're going to get some of the same issues with the ORP electrodes as you do with the pH electrodes. You have some coating issues with the platinum band. You guys use a platinum band or platinum disc as the actual ORP element, and you have the same kind of issues, which is coating. So you'll get the sluggish or slow readings. And the best way to do that is take some real fine sandpaper, and you can clean the platinum disc with some real fine sandpaper.
Really?
Yeah,
that's interesting. So that's interesting. I'm looking forward to trying that out in the field. Maybe I can convince you to meet me somewhere and keep me from messing it up. But talking about the sluggish response due to coatings, to clarify for the guys, you're not talking about a coating that comes on the probe from the lab. You're talking about getting a coating on it over time from the solution it's in, correct?
Right.
And so that's what, when we're performing the cleaning procedure, that's what we're trying to solve there, is to remove that coating that's built up.
So for your electrodes, you might have a calcium lime kind of coating. Would that be correct?
We generally deal with two different issues. One is oily coatings from biofilm and body oils, and the other is from calcium lime buildup. Yes, absolutely. So our general cleaning procedure is to rinse the probe with a soapy water solution to get any body oils off of it, because we don't want to drive those into the probe by putting in an acid. And then once we've rinsed it with fresh water, we'll then dip it in some sulfuric acid. It's a 35% sulfuric. Dip it in there for about 5 seconds, remove it, and then rinse it off. I have seen you mentioned the alcohol, and at a number of different trainings I've attended, they've talked about cleaning the probes with alcohol, and that's not been part of our procedure in the past. But I think from recent conversations that there is a good reason for it. Some do it in between the soap and the acid, and some do it before the soap solution. What's your recommendation there?
I think you're doing it correctly. A lot of times with the calcium lime coatings, we suggest just a CLR that you can get from the Home Depot or something like that. That works really well.
Okay, awesome. Very good. Jeff, again, thank you for taking the time to meet with us. I think I've probably taken up a little more of your time than I planned on. Yeah, it looks like it. But again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with our technicians.
That's my pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome. Any chance, I know I shot you the email. I'm on the road until like the 14th of July, but any chance you'd want to come in and maybe we can do something that's a little more good for you guys as well as our guys, maybe a kind of collaboration video?
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be happy to do that.
Awesome. Well, I'll follow up with you here in the next week or two, and we can set something up.
All right, great, Kevin.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Hey, no problem.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
All right, everyone. Well, I guess we're done for the evening. Or are we? I hope you enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed talking with Jeff Weeks from Van London Company. There was just so much information that we missed there in the middle, especially, to have it cut off right there when he's talking about how the probes, the electrodes work. And so I'm going to be reaching out in the next few days to Van London to see if we can set something up and do another collaboration. With social distancing, I'm sure it's going to be something along the lines of what you saw, but I'm hoping that with some of the equipment we've added that we'll be able to do a little bit more visuals, zoom in on things, and make it a little bit more interactive. Do me a favor, if you enjoyed the topic, hit like on the video. If you're enjoying the channel, if you're enjoying my attempt at personality, then please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon. It just helps us to understand whether we're on the right track or not. And please comment below in the comments section. We leave it open so you guys can give feedback. This is your YouTube channel. We're trying to share information that's of value to you in the field. I can't put it any more clearer than that. If you want to see something, if you have a question, ask it, post it, let us know, and we will address it. We'll make sure that you're getting the information that you need. If some of you want, deeper dives into, the technical little things about a subject, I'm more than happy to dive into those and to get experts to come in and talk with us about them, to give you all the information you want. We just have to know that it's what you want. So I'm going to leave it there. Actually, I'm probably going to leave it here, but have a good night, Poolsher, and thank you for watching. And I hope you guys, girls, are having a great here. I did it perfect in one take. I forgot to hit record. Oh. All right. Oh, it's the way of it. Hey, Hey guys, hi everyone, and welcome back. I'm really excited with the news that I have for you. It's evening here in Houston at Casa McCauley.